Most people think they're being conscious when they're actually just stuck in their head, right? They analyze everything, replay everything, question everything, and they wonder why they feel anxious and exhausted and disconnected. That's not awareness. That's overthinking. And today we're talking about how to tell the difference between real consciousness and this mental dissonance and noise, and why confusing the two keeps you stuck. I'm Justin Gates. I'm joined today with Michael Perry, and you're listening to the new Ashla Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. We're so happy you joined us today. I hope you guys are liking the new season so far. Michael, are you enjoying the new season?
Yeah, I think it's a great sort of shift in the dynamic where we're talking more about not the concept, but the consciousness itself. When we were so driven into shadow work and understanding patterns, this is now understanding the awareness and the thoughts. And so it's almost like we're just dissecting a different layer of these things and looking through a different paradigm.
And today we're talking about the difference between awareness and overthinking. It's something that I think all of us are burdened with sometimes, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. I think many of us go through it without even realizing it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully today we'll have a better idea of when we know the difference, right? Because most people really believe that they're becoming more conscious because everything's more busy, right? We're constantly thinking now, but we're also replaying conversations. We're also questioning every damn choice we make. We're analyzing every feeling. And I think a lot of us assume that's awareness.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think people who are just starting out in the healing scene very much struggle with this because of that very reason. All of a sudden, reality is a whole lot different than it once was, and now you're analyzing these conversations different. You're reflecting on past experiences and seeing how that relates to current experiences, and it's very easy to get trapped in our heads.
Yeah, it is. And it's not awareness. It's really more like attachment to thought, right? Overly attached to thought, probably. It's our minds chasing certainty. And we're trying to feel safe through controlling, right? And it leaves us tired and it leaves us unsettled and it makes it hard to rest because you're being late. It's like you're trapped in this chamber of just noise, just constant noise, right? And rumination and second guessing and all this stuff.
Well, it's like I think a lot of it is as you going through this work and you start getting to that point of trying to discover your authenticity, cultivate awareness, and cultivate intuition. This is the exact opposite of intuition. Because the truth is yes, we get into understanding things better, but we start trying to cultivate the ability to act from instinct instead of from overanalyzing everything, making meaning out of everything. We see what intuitively comes to us and we act on it. At least that's the end goal. But most of us get trapped in that stage well before that of trying to make sense of everything. Like you said, trying to control.
Right. Because awareness is presence with life, with all of life. It's being here, right? It's in your breath. It's in your body. In that moment, from moment to moment, with little to no distortion. And when we confuse overthinking with awareness, we lose true clarity. We start mistaking the noise and the roadblocks and fear and things like that for wisdom. And we'll confuse worry for responsibility or restlessness for depth. And this is where things become kind of clouded. There's an axiom that I chose for today. It's color blinds the eye, sound deafens the ear, flavor dulls the taste, the chase crazes the mind. What do you think about that axiom for this episode?
I think it ties right back into what I was talking about earlier. It's like if we can get to a place where we can act intuitively instead of from a place of constantly trying to evaluate, understand, break down. I mean, again, our minds are meaning-making machines, and we're constantly trying to figure out what the right action is, trying to figure out what the perfect path is to walk. And it'll make us go crazy because there is no perfect path. Often it leads to inaction because most people end up just trying to formulate the perfect plan and reevaluating it 100 times.
Right. Right. Trying to distill it down to perfection instead of just being present with life as it's happening around us and within us, right? Because if our minds are constantly chasing thoughts, it can't see. It can't see clearly because those mental stories and that rumination just distorts our perception. Something terrible, right? Going back to a show that you did about how our emotions color our reality. This kind of thing does color our reality, and it colors it falsely. It bends us away from truth, right?
Very much so. I mean, I think when we're trying to plan 100 outcomes, we never allow ourselves to prepare for a good outcome. Because when we
Right.
do that, we end up restricting ourselves and constraining ourselves and overanalyzing ourselves. And we end up acting from this concern of all these worst outcomes. And I mean, rumination, that is exactly what it is. It is the spiral that just keeps you going, constantly keeps you hyper vigilant, keeps you scanning for threats, and it never lets you leave room to open yourself to the endless possibilities of good that can come in.
Yeah, so today we're gonna talk about the difference between the two, between awareness and this mental noise, this just constant dissonance going on, and also between presence and rumination, and maybe even and probably we're gonna touch on consciousness and our attachment to thinking, and really that's what that axiom's for today. It talks about control and attachment and how we should work to have more healthy relationships with our thoughts and with ourselves. So, because if we don't really talk about these distinctions, we'll spend our life inside of here, right?
Yeah.
And not inside of life, where we belong. So, what is overthinking? If you had to define it, what would you say overthinking is?
Overthinking is the compulsive nature of constantly analyzing everything. Now, overthinking can pertain to just life and overthinking everything around you, but more often than not, overthinking pertains to something in our lives. And it can jump from thing to thing. We can get in a
Mhm.
pattern where overthinking is just a part of our daily life. And it's what are we overthinking about now? What is our most recent obsession?
Mhm.
And it is just this compulsivity we develop in our minds, which neural pathways we ingrain in the mind to obsess, and we start analyzing, researching, or it's, yeah, compulsive in nature. It's the best way to describe it. It starts becoming
Right.
automatic.
Yeah, it does. And a lot of us get fooled into thinking that we're just being more thoughtful, that we're being more careful and more responsible or more deep. I'm so deep because I think so much, right? We'll tell ourselves things like, I think a lot because I care, or I analyze things because I'm aware. Right?
Yeah.
I replay the things over and over and over again because I want to grow. But these, I'm not going to straight up call these lies that we tell ourselves, but we're certainly not hitting the mark of what's actually going on. And a lot of people fool themselves into thinking that chronic overthinking is equal to intelligence or wisdom, right?
Well, again,
It's
it's like it
really
becomes so perpetuated in our systems where we get into such a routine of doing it that we feel almost like it's a superpower. We
Mhm.
we we fool ourselves into thinking this is a good thing.
Right. We're just trying to create certainty in a very uncertain, chaotic world, right? We're just and we're using this just never-ending constant mental activity to do that. When things feel unstable or when our emotions feel uncomfortable and when we can't see the right outcome that we want to see. Not the actual right outcome for us, but the one that we want to control and see. So our mind will start working overtime, and it plans and it predicts and it reviews and it plans and predicts and reviews, and it does it over and over and over again.
Yep.
But also it imagines worst case scenarios, right? Or you'll rehearse conversations you haven't had yet, but you're already thinking of the conversation already going off the rails before it ever happened.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think often when we get into these overthinking patterns too, when it really picks up its momentum, is when there's an end goal involved, whether it's obtaining something or interacting with someone or just something we're trying to accomplish. Everything will begin to fixate around this singular point.
Yeah, right. If I had to break down overthinking simply, it is attachment to control. That's what I would call overthinking, right?
And certainty.
And certainty, right? It can be a refusal to allow ourselves to rest in something that's unknown. It might even point to our inability to trust life itself, or trust the universe, or trust the force, or God, or whatever, whatever you call it, or even our own perception. So we lose self-trust when we do this, and we're probably not very trustful of anything else if we're doing this.
That was one of the big things that kept running through my head as we started this, is just trust kept coming up in my head, because it's the truth. It is the need to control every aspect of something so it goes a certain way, because we can't trust things to unfold properly before us or in others. I mean, it's all about the situation. We overthink about a ton of things, but there are some roots you will see within these patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In a lot of ways, this rumination, and maybe at a very deep level, is just fear-based thinking. Because it's really driven by insecurity, and it's driven by doubt and self-doubt. And there's something in us trying to protect us. I get it. So, I mean, we can't look at this stuff as bad or evil or whatever. It's a part of us reaching out, trying to talk to us about what we need to do next. And, right, if we don't have that self-trust, if we can't rest in presence, no matter what's happening, then these things become a problem.
Well, it's this primal part of our brains. Like, this is not a bad thing or meaning you're broken. This is something we all deal with, because we all create. This is how we're wired. It's how our ancestors would. I need certainty. I must hunt out food. I need to figure out how my family's going to eat. I need to figure out how I'm going to have shelter. And it's unfortunately, we live in a society where all these core needs are met. And so it needs something to fixate on. And often it's things that are not becoming to our survival. We just treat it as such.
Yeah. And the Path of Ashla, the way we teach and practice, we look at thought as information. And it's useful and it's practical. It helps us plan, and it helps us learn, right? And it helps us reflect and gather insight. But we don't think of thought as intelligence. We think of awareness as intelligence. We think of presence as intelligence, because this creates this clearer perception, right? And because when you're truly aware, you see things clearly and directly as they are. You feel them clearly and directly. You start to know things without falling into a cycle, because really at the end of the day, you're aligned with what is.
I think another big thing is just how much energy you free up. When you learn to hone in and separate yourself from the thinking and realize that your thoughts are not you, when you're able to separate your spirit from your thinking, you're able to generate so much more energy towards other meaningful things in your life.
Yeah. Why do our minds become addicted to thinking? Why do we become addicted to thinking, I should say? And why is it so hard for us to stop?
Man, I think it comes back to just that need for security, that need for control, that need for certainty. It's hardwired in us, and it's so hard for us to surrender and trust. I mean, you look at society, and everyone's drifting more and more into hyper independence because they don't want to rely on other people, because they don't want to trust other people. They can trust themselves, and damn the rest.
Mm-hmm. Especially emotionally, this is where it really happens for most of us. When an emotion comes up, it could be sadness or fear or anger or loneliness or shame or whatever. Our mind wants to step in. It starts analyzing because it's trying to keep us chill out, right? It's trying to keep us calm and not spiraling, but really it'll start analyzing, and then it'll start explaining and justifying and rehearsing. Yep. And that's where you really get in trouble, is when it rehearses, and then when it just ruminates, right? And it's not there to solve anything really when this starts happening. It's there to avoid us having to feel and sit with those emotions any longer,
That
because
was
really our mind is trying to replace the feeling with thinking, right? It just makes us busy in a different way.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest realizations I had when I started going through therapy. Was it's like I'm really good at articulating things, but
Hmm.
me articulating things was my way to bypass feeling. If I can understand it, then I don't have to worry about it and I can put it to the side. No, that is how I override emotions. That is how I justify scapegoating.
Yeah. Yeah, and when this happens, um, analyzing everything then replaces our presence, because we'll leave the body, we'll leave our breath, and we'll leave the actual moment of what's really truly happening, and we retreat up into the head because that feels safer than the heart sometimes. Maybe a lot of times for people who are constantly, chronically ruminating. And we learn this very early, our mind does, because what feelings are really overwhelming. They can be, right? And maybe we didn't have anybody to help us sit and hold on to it, or you were told to just get over it, Michael, be strong.
Yep.
Or you were ignored. They're like, you know what, if you're going to cry, go cry in the corner, right? So we learn how to adapt, and thinking instead of feeling worked for us, and it worked for a while, but now it's something that you said, now it's a habit, because that overthinking gives us the illusion of control, because we really feel like we're busy and we're doing something even when nothing is changing. So the mind just keeps going, well, maybe I should tell him again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And it's just never stops. It's just a hamster wheel of suck, right?
Well, and it's like so many of us, we trust ourselves more than we trust anyone else when it comes to advice. And it's like this voice in our head, which is does not always have our best interests in mind.
Right.
It's our minds are computers. The best way to look at this, the mind is a computer. If you give it a problem, it will try to solve it. The
Hmm.
issue is there is not near enough data that you can digest. There's not enough information and enough to give you that certainty that will allow that computer to spit out an answer. So it is going to hash through equations, try all these different predictions. It's going to do all it can to figure this out. This was a huge
Hmm.
revelation for me when I realized that it's like when you try to think about something, when you try to ask yourself a question, like a question you deeply care about, your mind will try to figure it out.
Right.
The more you care about it, the more it's going to try to figure it out. But nine
Hmm.
out of 10, that is not where you're going to find the answer. And here's where you're going to find the answer in your
Right.
intuition.
Yeah. Yeah. In your body, in your breath, sitting with being uncomfortable as long as you can, right? Because uh, this activity, when the mind can't figure it out, it does what? Then it just applies masks, and it will mask our vulnerability. Because as long as we're busy thinking, we don't have to admit the truth of things like I'm scared, or I'm lonely, right? Or I don't know, or I need support, I need help. So this thought not only becomes a mask, but it becomes like an armor that we get stuck in. But it's really heavy armor. You can't move very well when it really
No.
goes overdrive, right? And it makes us tired. Um, thinking thinking is a strategy, right? It's something that we learn to survive throughout all of human history, even to the back all the way back, right? Ooh, fire. Thinking became a strategy to survive. But awareness is a state of being. It's something that we have to learn and practice to inhabit, right? Strategy protects us, but these state of beings transform us. But we don't have to hate ourselves for thinking. And we don't need to hate our mind for trying to do the only thing it knows how to do. We just need to start learning how to outgrow our dependence on it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. No, that's perfectly said because it's not something you're going to get rid of. And most importantly, as much as we're talking down about these thoughts and overthinking, your mind is an asset.
No.
If you can master your mind, you can master your life. It is unreal the unlimited potential you have with the resource that is your mind.
Yeah. Well, these things come at a great cost, though. If we don't learn to balance our ourselves, balance our being, mind, body, spirit, heart, because if we're stuck in our head a lot, and that becomes the normal for us, we literally cannot participate with life as it is, not physically, spiritually, emotionally, or energetically. You may be present in your body, but your awareness is absent. It's like I'm here, but I'm not here, right? And I'd say probably one of the worst things that happens is that you disconnect emotionally, and feeling is important. There's a lot of wisdom in feeling. We should not ignore it, as you said, in our intuition, in our gut, in our heart, and our mind. We should try to align these things, because then when we stop feeling things, we miss out on stuff. We miss out on joy. We miss grief. We put off grief when we need to grieve. We become very cautious when it comes to love, right? We just instead of feeling our feeling and sitting with our emotions, we just try to explain them away. It'd be like, think of it like this: when this happens, life loses its texture and its color and its depth and the things that make it impossibly wonderful, right? All the good and all the bad.
Well, it starts to lose all that wonder because now you're too
Yeah.
busy trying to articulate things and you're so hyper focused in this one area that life just passes on around you. Life stands still for no one.
No, it doesn't. And it invites you to participate. Every breath is an invitation to participate with life, right? Every heartbeat is an invite to participate fully and being present within it. How hard is it to make decisions when we're stuck in this?
Well, again, when you're evaluating all possible outcomes, I mean, if it's
Mhm.
pertaining to this thing, you're most likely going to make the most rash decision. That is one thing I realized. I'm hyper focused on this thing and I am overthinking about it till the point it comes due. Then all of a sudden, I am just, okay, rush through it, get it over with because I've been so focused on it. And this can be things that I'm excited about. Getting a new game, you know? Oh, this game's
Right.
going to come out in 2 weeks. And I start thinking about it. I
Mhm.
start watching reviews. I start overthinking about it. And then I get the game and I just burn through it because it's just what I want to do. Or in turn, if there's something that's going on that's important in life, I got a court date and I'm stressing about it. And so I'm overanalyzing all the approaches I'm going to have in that courtroom. And after thinking of 1,000 ways to approach it, I'm going to get in there and I am stumbling over myself because instead of having just a plan or following my intuition, I have 100 different things going on at once. And it makes it much less effective.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about this conscious awareness versus this mental narration. I think this is a good place to start, where we can start kind of learning how to move into awareness. Um, and there's really a simple way to understand the difference. Awareness is direct and true, right? It is what it is. Once you're aware, you see things for as they are. But the narration is interpretive, and it's open to us adding and removing pieces of it so we can really try to control the narrative, right?
Right.
Um, and you really don't gain any experience when you do that. Awareness is experience. It experiences life with us because we're present in there. It doesn't explain like narration does. And a lot of us are living in commentary instead of life. Because something will happen, right? And instantly our mind will add a story or start creating this Hollywood production that has very little roots and truth
Yep.
anymore by the time it's done.
That was the big
Um,
thing I was going to say is look at one of the best ways to know if you're being aware or if you're doing mental narration is just look for a story. Are you telling yourself stories right now? Are you envisioning this thing going on? Are you describing how things are going to end up? Are you future
right.
seeking? Or are you being present?
Right. Well, if you're super anxious, you're probably in the future. And if you're super stressed, you're probably in the past, right? That doesn't mean we don't have stress and anxiety in the present, depending on what's going on. But if you're constantly stressed or constantly worried or anxious, you're probably outside of time. You're hanging out in places you have no power over or control. The only place you have control is here, now, being present.
I think an important note with this too is when you look at these stories, when you catch yourself in a story, 9 out of 10, the story you're telling isn't a story of the present, it's a story of the past.
Yes.
You are creating the same narrative of something you went through in the past and projecting it on the events you're going through in the current moment.
Yeah, that's true. Because something simple like somebody's tone of voice, oh, they're upset with me, right? Or
Yeah.
if you send a text to somebody that you care about and they don't reply within 8.2 seconds, you're starting to think about all the things you did wrong. Or you make a tiny little mistake, and that turns into this big production, a movie called I Always Screw Up. I Always Fail. Right?
Yep.
And it could be something tiny, and it usually is tiny things. The event or the mistake or whatever it is small, but the story just becomes grand in proportion. And this type of narration replaces our perception. And this becomes all we see, and the world becomes that.
Yeah.
Right?
I think an important thing also to really reflect on is, are you trying to be a mind reader right now?
Right.
Are you trying to think you know what the other person is thinking? I don't care how long you've known the person. Are you trying to be a mind reader? Because often we are. And often we think we do know exactly what the other person's thinking. Or at least that's what we project onto them.
Right, because we detect patterns, and we are predictive beings, right? That's what we do, because that's what generally keeps us safe. Nature gives us enough patterns to know what not to eat and what to eat, so that we don't die of poisoning, right? Stuff like that. But that permeates everything. But this is where awareness and consciousness steps in, right? Because instead of allowing these stories to replace actual reality, and reacting to what isn't happening, and to allow us to start reacting to what is happening, consciousness sees what's happening before labeling it or trying to detect pattern. It pauses, right? It allows the moment to exist without immediate response or explanation. So, for example, instead of, oh, they must be mad at me, it notices that their tone changed, right? Instead of just going right to the story. Or instead of, man, I really embarrassed myself. I always embarrass myself. It pauses and it notices and it calls out, maybe I stumbled over my words instead of, right?
A keen practice, ironically, as we're doing this episode, one thing I've been really getting into, I know I keep bringing up projection, but it's so important to really understand how often we do this, is I was working in a group a few weeks ago, and they were talking about how they always feel, one of the people was speaking up and saying how they sort of feel like they're sort of the awkward kid at the party. They want to go over and pet the dog. And I think most people feel that way. And but it got me thinking about projection. How many people
more normal than you think you are? Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, it's just again, how often do we project our own narratives onto people? Whenever we get triggered, and this is really the big thing, we'll start feeling in our nervous system that anxiousness. We'll start feeling a little hypervigilant. We feel awkward in social situations, especially if you haven't done it in a while. And the minute you feel like you mess up, whether you stumble on your words or you said something awkward, and the minute you do that judgment you're giving yourself, you're now telling yourself everyone else is giving you. Right. And it's just this ripple effect that happens. And I think everyone is dealing with this to some degree or the other. But it's very rampant in this day and age with it becoming people's identity, or the labeling. This is becoming more, how do I phrase it? It's much more fixated in people's minds that people are judging them when they're the ones judging themselves.
Right. What we're talking about is being reactive instead of responding. Reaction over response. And it's very easy to do because everything in this world feels immediate, right? Instead of writing you a letter and putting a stamp on it and sending it in the mail, I can literally take less than 2 seconds and send you a message, and you get it instantly. Everything is all quick and fast and easy nowadays, and that's the distinction here between this awareness, consciousness, and this narration, because narration is reactive. It's fast. It's dramatic. It demands resolution, and it's going to try to control every aspect until it gets it. When you narrate, though, you leave the present. You step out of presence. But when you perceive, and when you're conscious, and when you're aware, you stay. This is why the practice is not to silence our thoughts completely. We still need them. But it's the point we're making here now, as we move into integration, is to notice when explanation is replacing experience, or when it's replacing reality, right? So we get to a point where we can notice things without trying to explain them, or perceive without creating narration. And when you do this, we become more grounded. We become less reactive, and a lot of times less defensive, which is usually the mode that we go into when we're doing these things. We just get really super defensive. Let's talk about how we can train our mind to rest in this awareness, in this presence. So if overthinking has become a habit, can we just simply decide to stop and it's all going to fix and be better? And
No.
right?
I mean, step one, as we're talking, is awareness. Just being aware how much your thoughts have control. Again,
Right.
we are not our thoughts, and our unconscious mind dictates 95% of our thoughts. I remember when we first started working together, and you had me meditating, and allowing myself to allow thoughts to come up like clouds and pushing them away. And I'm dealing with some crap right now, right? I am going through it. Man, they were so sticky. Like, what are you talking about? That cloud comes up, I swat it, it's on my hand now. I can't get rid of these.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But I think that was one of the biggest things, and even to this day, I have to meditate constantly to keep a good separation between me and my thoughts. And I'm not perfect at it. There are plenty of days where my mind has full reign, but it's learning to have that separation. It's being consistent in your practices and in your routines so that you can create that separation, so that when the time comes and you're actually going through something, you have the ability to be like, these are my thoughts. This is not reality.
Right. Yeah, it's training ourselves and practicing enough to put that space in between event and reaction so that it can be response. And then allowing ourselves a little time afterwards to reflect. Not ruminate, but reflect. Because habits are not broken through force. They weren't created by force, and they're not going to be broken that way. We replace them through training and practice.
I think one of the most powerful things I ever found, if you're someone who is suffering with overthinking or rumination right now over something that's happened in your life or something that's coming up, a technique I learned, here's an exercise for you called the wise mind routine. You take that worst case scenario that your mind is constantly jumping back to. You take the best case scenario. And then you figure out what's in the middle of those two things, and that is your most likely outcome. So allow that to be what you decide to be the outcome, so you're not constantly making 1,000 different ways things will go. And I found doing that has created enough space for my mind to drop things.
Yeah. Right. We learn to receive instead of trying to force or control. Right? There is no perfect way to meditate. I hate to break it to you. The goal of meditation is to be able to settle into our body and our breath without forced effort. There's no perfect way to do it. And if you try to do it perfectly, you won't be meditating, right? This is why surrender and letting go is so very important, right?
Yeah.
So these habits are not broken through force. Meditation is a very good one. Training and practicing meditation. Because when we're stuck in these ruminating cycles all the time, our mind is just learn to move constantly to keep us upright. And when we start to introduce stillness, it will resist and it'll scream louder, and the clouds will stick to your hands, as you said, right? The thoughts
Yeah.
just get stickier, and we get more restless. And then what does that do? That just multiplies the thoughts. And a lot of folks will think that, oh, I can't meditate. I can't practice this. I'm failing. It's not. It means that you're starting to touch the edge of your discomfort, right? You're starting to touch the boundaries where you have to cross to get to this next part, because thinking has always been your protection. And when you stop filling space with thoughts, you begin to start to feel what thought has been hiding.
Yo. Nah,
And it
stillness will
starts to
feel
show
so
you,
uncomfortable.
yeah, because you'll start to because it reveals the tension that you're holding in your body and the emotions that have been hiding under the surface. Um, it reveals the fear that we've been managing mentally to be safe from. And it's super intense, right? As you said, man, this dude got me meditating and told me to imagine my thoughts as clouds, and just to kind of watch them go by, and give him a little nudge if I need to, but these things are sticking to my face. What do I do? Right? I'm sure that was really overwhelming, right? And intense.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say that's going to call out a lot of people listening is it's like, if you don't think you are someone who overthinks, if you just have moments of overthinking, ask yourself, what are you doing in those moments you're not overthinking? Are you scrolling
Hmm.
through social media? Are you binging TV, playing games? Are you distracting yourself from what you're feeling? Because very often that's the case. I know for me, I have to catch myself when I realize that I'm not spending enough time in boredom, which is such a healthy thing to feel. It's like I start reining it in. I delete apps. I
Hmm.
will ground myself from certain things just to make sure that I allow myself to have those moments for feelings to come up, so that I know I'm not building a receipt that's going to come due.
Right. Right. And again, there's no shame in this. We all go through this.
Yeah.
All of us. All of us. Think of your favorite guru. If you have a guru, think of your favorite guru. They struggled too.
Yep.
It just doesn't look like they struggled now because it's become such a powerful habit for them, the practice, right? Um, this is the time where we don't need to fight ourselves or even our thoughts, and not to shame ourselves, or but to just practice staying, practice sitting, even if it's just for a few minutes. If you can increase that by a couple of minutes each time, the benefits will outweigh the discomfort. If we could stay with the breath for just a few extra breaths, right? If we could stay with the sensation or the feelings for just a few extra, if we can stay with the emotion for a few extra seconds, even just a few seconds, the
Yeah.
longer we stay present, the stronger our regulation becomes, right?
Yeah.
Because every time that you remain with your discomfort, without running into the head, the mind, you will grow a little bit at a time. You'll actually teach your body how to feel safe in a different way, in a more practical way, in a way that's better for you, right?
One of my favorite practices is cold exposure. I know when I was going through heavy rumination, I was dealing with a trauma bond, grief, all these heavy emotions, and they would just end up being, my mind was on fire, constant,
Mm.
just negative input. Cold exposure was the one thing that saved me. Whether it was getting in a cold shower, splashing cold water on my face, allowing myself to do something to disrupt my nervous system from being activated so that I could bring myself back down to baseline.
Hmm.
It's so important to have these regulatory practices.
Yeah, this is simply about practice, 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 right? And really, my advice is very simple. When you are uncomfortable, or when you have feelings, or when you're triggered into something, the practice is very simple here. When it comes about, stay. Just stay. Stay as long as you can. When your mind begins to start narrating and creating excuses and justifications Notice that. Don't beat yourself to death. Just notice it. Witness that, right? When you feel the urge to run for the hills, breathe. Just pause and breathe. Don't attack the thought. Don't attack the feeling. Don't argue with it. Don't justify it. Just don't follow where it goes. Let it move along, right?
Yeah.
Let it move along. And then return back to the present, to awareness. Again and again and again and again. This is a training. This is practice. That's how we develop the discipline here and a new habit. This is how our mind learns to align with what's truly best for us. This is how it learns how to rest and give yourself a break for a while. But it's not through strangling it or suppressing it, right? By teaching it that stillness is fine and that it's good. What are some, I know we've talked about some daily practices that we can do already. Are there any other kind of daily practices you can think of that can
Again,
help us
back
through
to
this?
meditation, breath work. Breath work is
Mm-hmm.
so important. Nervous system regulation. Often when you get into an overthinking spiral, especially if it's something that's really heavy, stop and check with your body. What are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? Learn about the
Right.
chakras. Often when you feel something going on in your body, it'll be coming from one of those points. And if you look at the chakra and the information around it, you'll often find what the root area is being impacted. Like if you're feeling it in your lower back, it's probably a feeling of not being secure, not having a foundation. If you're feeling it in your heart, it's something to do with relationship and love.
One practice I use in lots of different aspects of my being, whether it be the mind, the heart, emotionally, whatever, is through pausing and acknowledging, right? So, for example, if I notice that my mind is looping, and my mind does this too, to this day, right? And I don't think we all really shake this, right? But we can learn to manage it. So when I notice it looping and starting to ruminate, I see the hamster getting ready to jump on the wheel. I'll pause myself and I'll just simply say, thinking. I'm thinking, right? And not being frustrated with it, not judging it, not beating the crap out of it. I'm just recognizing, hey, I'm really thinking here, right? And then I return back to awareness because this really helps me break that trance that we can get stuck in, watching the hamster go around and around and around. Another thing is I like to ground. I like to ground my senses, right? This is why we picked the axiom. This is why I also picked the axiom today, because these things drive us crazy. We get so overloaded with sensory input, right? It can drive us crazy sometimes. So if I need to ground, I'll bring my attention, my awareness to something physical. Is it my feet on the floor? I'm feeling the carpet go between my toes, and I'm focusing my attention there, right? Or how my body's sitting in the chair. And sometimes I don't like how my body's. You guys see me move all the time. If I'm uncomfortable, I move. Or it could be the sound in the room. For me, like right now, whenever you speak, I hear your voice, right? That's something I can focus on. If you have a fan going, just focus on how the air feels on your body, on your little arm hairs or whatever, right? Because overthinking pulls us into abstraction, but sensation brings us back to reality if we learn to put our awareness there and be present with it. And the third thing is something you said, anchoring with our breath, right? Breath work, simple breath work. It could be take 10 steady breaths in the morning and in the afternoon and before you go to bed. Just take real breaths, focus on 10 purposeful breaths and follow the inhale and follow the exhale and follow the space in between those two, right?
Yeah.
And the mind will wander as it does, and the thoughts will get sticky as they do, but just return to breath. How important is this? Is something you bring up around this kind of work? How important is body awareness? Like you know,
Oh, it's vital. Again,
yeah, doing,
we'll often realize that the body is what's being activated. It's the
right.
mind has touched the body, and now the mind is spiraling out of control. I wanted to add to your first exercise, and this ties right into your
Yeah.
question about how tell yourself you're thinking. I love that.
Right.
One thing that really helped me when I was dealing with perpetual rumination, like horrible rumination, is identifying what feeling is it trying to replace. So the court example, I am feeling fear right now. These thoughts are trying to help me feel fear. You going on a first date, you're overthinking how this date's going to go. I'm nervous.
Right.
I am feeling nervous. And being able to identify that can really help stop and change the thoughts to something that is processable in the body. Because when you're articulating examples, that's just future seeking. Next to when you can identify this is nervousness, you can start really getting in touch with what's going on in your body.
Yeah. 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 Well said. And another one that I have is what we call one task focus. This is something, this goes back to how I taught Michael how to learn how to be present. When you do the dishes, you do the damn dishes. Don't do anything else, right? Do the dishes. When you eat, right? When you're listening to a book or you're listening to a podcast, you're listening to music, whatever it is, listen. Don't do anything else. Try to listen. Because and this one was really powerful for me because I get so fragmented because I'm always trying to do so many things at once, right? And multitasking really feeds that fragmentation. But if we can learn to focus on a singular thing, like for example, there are days where when I get off work and I drive home, I'll turn the radio off and I will just focus on what's in front of me driving, right? And I'm not letting myself listen to books or listen to music but in the same token, when I want to listen to an audiobook or something, I stop doing everything else. That is my time to listen. I set time aside to do it, right? Or reading or whatever, but just focus on one task. And look, we're all busy, Michael. Everybody's busy. We have kids, we have bills, we have jobs, all this stuff. But try to set aside one thing, right, in your day to focus only on nothing but that.
Yeah. I have an acronym for this, and it applies to multiple things, but in this instance, right, focus. Follow one course until success.
Right. Say that one more time.
Focus. Follow one course until success.
Nice. I like that. Do you have any final thoughts for today's show before we move on to our affirmations and stuff, which I won't forget this time?
We all deal with overthinking. It is ingrained in our society. It's ingrained in our genetics all the way going back to our greatest ancestors. And the world we live in is so fast-paced and so much going on that most of us get sucked into this. What we're really talking about here isn't how to overcome it, how to master it, how to shift into consciousness and not overthink anymore. What we're talking about is learning how to manage the symptoms of being human. So just take this advice as ways to help enhance your life and make it better, and not as something you need to fix or get rid of in your life, because you never will. Again, like Justin said, even the yogis go through this.
Yeah, we just have more faith in them than we do our own selves, right? Which is
they've been practicing a little longer.
We all need to work on better self-faith and trust, right? So I have a practice. Our main exercise today, I'm calling it the anywhere, anytime, right? I know a lot of these, I tell you to go find a place to sit down and where there's privacy and there's all these things, but we don't train consciousness and awareness completely in a vacuum, right? We can't, because that's not where we are in this world. We are everywhere else sometimes, all the time. We've always got stuff going on. So I wanted to give you something that you could literally do anywhere, anytime. You don't need it to be silent. You don't need privacy. You don't need any candles or incense or special pillows, Michael. I know you like those
Oh,
pillows. I know. All you need is your awareness, your attention. And you can do this, and it's very simple. Wherever you are, pause for one moment and just notice one single breath and make it a good one, you know? You pause and you go, all right. Oh, man, that felt good. But notice it, right? And then let yourself breathe as you do. And then notice one of those breaths and don't try to change them. Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to justify it. Just watch it. Just feel it. Just experience it. Now, I want you to notice your body. Where are you tensed? Right now, my neck is killing me. I don't know if you guys can notice I'm kind of flinch into one way, right? I'm super tense in my shoulders and my neck today. So that's easy for me, but sometimes it's very difficult for us to notice where we're tense, right? Or where we're holding energy, we're holding baggage or whatever. So notice your body. Where are you tense? Where are you holding on to things? Where are you bracing and flinching? Just notice it. Don't try to justify it, analyze it, or fix it. Just notice it. And then just allow it to be. I'm really tense in my shoulders today, right? Now notice a thought. What is running right now? What is running through your mind right now? Are you planning? Are you worrying? Are you judging? Are you replaying your favorite movie over and over again? And you need to label it, call it out. Thinking, as I said earlier, thinking, and then let it pass. If it sticks to you, Michael, just flick it until it goes away, right? Return to what's happening in front of you. And we'll do something easy. Your hands, your feet, your voice, your ambient surroundings. You know, what's around you? Is it people? Is it birds? Is it cars? Is it whatever? Stay present for 3 breaths. That's all you need to do, 3 breaths. Then ask yourself, am I aware or am I lost in thought? And if you are, recenter. If you're not, continue, right? Staying there in that centered space. And you could do this in conversations. You could do it while walking. You could do it while working. You can do it when we get triggered or when we're thinking too much or whatever. These are tiny little practices that if we do them enough times, it becomes normal, right? So practice it daily and make sure you practice in real moments, things that are actually happening to you. Because insight's great, but if you're not integrating, you're not getting anything out of it. And integration happens through being present, not by controlling or force. So, do you have anything to add to that exercise?
Yeah, I just got to say that's a really good exercise because one of the big issues with meditation is when we're trying to allow our thoughts to come up and go, is it's very easy for one to stick and take us down a tangent without any real meaningful way to bring us out of that tangent until we just notice it. So
Right.
I like having that space in between to allow you to just keep checking in. Have I been pulled away yet? Have I been pulled away yet? And that's really powerful.
It is, and it's the simple things that make the biggest impact on us. But we have to be consistent. We have to practice and practice and practice. So, our affirmations for today. I rest in awareness, not mental noise. I trust clarity over analysis. My mind serves presence. I release compulsive thinking. I live from conscious perception. And our journal prompt for today. When do I overthink the most? What am I avoiding when I analyze? Or what am I trying to hide? In other words, right? When I'm overanalyzing things. How does rumination affect my energy? A lot. You're going to find it when you start paying attention. When do I feel most present? And what would change if I trusted awareness? So everything we explored today, Michael, comes down to one truth, one single truth. You were not meant to live inside your thoughts. You were meant to be present and live in awareness of life. Because thinking is a tool. Presence is where we belong. It's our home. Overthinking is what happens when you lose trust in yourself and trust in life and trust in the unknown and just trust in general, especially the self-trust. Awareness is a way for us to start to rebuild that trust, not through forced effort, but by returning right?
Yeah.
By returning to breath, by returning to our body, by returning to life as it is. Because you don't need to understand everything. You just need to be here, right? You don't need perfection. You need presence. There is no such thing as perfect certainty. You just need clear perception. This is the practices that we build our discipline of the way. Not escaping thought, not suppressing emotion, learning to rest in ourselves, in presence, in life. So this week, practice returning. When the mind starts looping, tell yourself, I'm thinking, and bring yourself back to awareness. When things get crazy and uncertain, breathe, pause and breathe. When you get scared or when things are uncomfortable, practice staying as long as you can. When the rumination happens and the stories begin to narrate life instead of you living actual life, let them pass. Acknowledge them and let them pass. Choose presence over all things, especially the noise. And you do this again and again. So if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who lives in their head too much, which is all of us sometimes. So this episode, Michael, should go to every human being on the planet.
We believe
we
in
all
you.
do it. If this is your first time and you're not subscribed with us, please consider subscribing and follow the journey with us. So, look, none of this is about becoming someone new, right? It's about remembering who you are beneath all the bullshit. So, and we'll continue our journey and our work in the next episode, Michael. So,
As always.
So until then, with love and gratitude, ad lucem.
Ad lucem.